everybody out in YouTube, X-Plane 11 fans, YouTube fans. Hello, it's Captain K-Man. And we're going to do a quick tutorial here for those of you who may be new to X-Plane, looking to pick up X-Plane, or old grizzled veterans of X-Plane that are too stubborn to know what's good for you. This tutorial is going to be for you today. We are doing this tutorial live, so I don't have any bells and whistles running today. And for the most part, we're just going to plow through this. Hello, everyone in chat. Let's get busy here. This shouldn't take too long. It's not that complex of a program to utilize, but some people may find the interface a little intimidating at first. You know, like somebody holding a knife to you, like, give me all your money. Speaking of money, I'll just get it right out of the way here. This bad boy runs for $12.50. It's cheap. It's cheap. And, well, I mean, I guess it's cheap to me. It may not be cheap to somebody somewhere in the Sahara Desert somewhere, but for me, it's cheap. And if somebody was to ask me, Captain K-Man, what is the #1 add-on that you would buy? What is the first thing you would buy if I was brand new to X-Plane? What should I go buy? If you ask me that question, you're going to get the same answer every single time. I'm going to tell you to go buy xOrganizer. Now, there is a free version of this, but it's, I don't know if he's still updating it, keeping it up to date and stuff, or if he stopped. If I was him, I would have stopped. So I think xOrganizer free already stopped updating, and now if you want consistent updates, you're going to have to go and purchase it. Do it. Give the guy your money. He single-handedly turned X-Plane into a nightmare to manage, into something that's actually really easy to manage. And we're going to go over that right now. Let me ask, though, in chat, how we sound. Are we nice, crystal clear here? I want to make sure the microphone's coming through nice and clean here. This tutorial will be moved into the tutorial archives once we're done recording it here. And so we want it to be nice, crisp, and clean. Sounds good. All right, thank you, guys. All right, so xOrganizer, what is it? Why should you have it? Don't argue about it. I know a lot of people there. I know some people that are like, oh, I do it by hand. I edit my scenery INI file by hand, and I'm just staring at them like a deer in the headlights, and my brain can't grasp the concept of why you would want to punish yourself, especially if you have a lot of scenery. If you're never going to buy airports, if you don't do Ortho for XP, if you don't plan to do anything but fly default airport, then by all means edit the INI file using Notepad and be happy with the rest of your life. However, if you're like 99% of the rest of the universe, and you're going to do Ortho for XP satellite imagery, you're going to go out and buy 300 airports, you're going to buy 22 airplanes, you're going to stuff a bunch of plugins into your X-Plane simulation, do yourself a favor right now. Go sell blood, plasma, whatever you need to sell to get $12.50 US currency, and pick up this app. So this is the interface of xOrganizer. This is version 2.31 as of this recording here. And he updates it several times a year. So I think we're already 3 patches this year, 3 or 4 patches. So it's actively developed as new features are added to it, or little bug fixes have to come into play. Water is delicious. So first off, we're going to go over the settings tab here. This is the first thing that you're going to want to play with as soon as you start xOrganizer for the first time. It should ask you, if I remember the installation correctly, it does ask you where your X-Plane 11 root folder is located. If it doesn't, you can always, of course, click on the X-Plane location. Mine's on my E drive, which is one of my high-speed SSD drives, and so that's where it is. It's currently linked right there. If you have more than one installation, which you are allowed to, installations, if you bought it directly from Laminar, I'm not sure if Steam lets you install 2 or not, but if you bought it direct from Laminar's website, you are allowed to install 2 copies of X-Plane. And this allows you to link xOrganizer to the other copy of Xplane, so you can swap back and forth between organized stuff. So Xplane does have a launcher. You can see it up here in the upper left-hand corner right there. You can start Xplane right here. It does accept command lines, bat files, shortcuts right here. So if you don't give it anything, it's just immediately going to go find the exe in this folder right here. But if you want to launch it with command line parameters such as allow reshade here, this is where you would do all of that stuff right there. If you have the Steam version, boom, you click Steam version, put in your Steam link ID number right there, and away you go. Don't ask me where to get that ID number from because I don't have the Steam version of Xplane. Modules, everything. You want everything. By default, everything is turned on here. They do allow you to change the interface. Here you got 2 lights, 2 darks, and an extra high crispy contrast. I like dark number 1. That's what you're seeing on your screen right now. I can't stand light versions of anything. It's like looking into the sun. Your eyes begin to bleed from all the white light coming out of your monitor. So we don't bother with stuff like that. You can change the font size if you have trouble seeing. You can, of course, change the font size, make everything huge and giant, and all that other good stuff. Visual qualities here. This is all stuff that you can just play with. I left it all at default. I really don't mess with any of this stuff in here. If you guys want to mess with it, be my guest. You will have to crack open the manual, though, since I have never used any of this stuff. It's pretty much self-explanatory, though. You know, as long as you have at least a 3rd grade education, you should be able to understand what you're seeing on your screen here, and so on and so forth. So really, I haven't touched any xOrganizer settings. I'm perfectly happy with the way it came out of the box. The only thing I really touched is launch and location stuff. So we're going to cancel out of that. This is the main interface. The first time you start xOrganizer, what I do, you don't have to do this, but this is what I did. I completely deleted the scenery INI file in the Xplane 11 custom scenery folder. I just got rid of it. And then I ran xOrganizer for the first time, and I let it go in and scan all my custom scenery folders, all my plugin folders, all of my Lewis scripts. It went in there and it did all that automatically. And this can take a little bit of time depending on your hard drive type, the speed of it, and how much scenery you actually have loaded into your custom scenery folder. But when it's done, you're going to be presented with this hierarchy of folder trees here. And this is basically exactly how the INI file is what you're seeing right here. So typically, we did a tutorial a couple of years ago on the hierarchy of your scenery INI file, like where does everything belong, right? Airports on top, default airports right there. Then you're gonna want your roads and your autogen below that. Libraries, who cares? Libraries can go in any order, but it always puts it down here in the middle. Roads and overlays, and then all your ortho, and then all your mesh goes at the very end of the scenery sandwich. So what you see is what you get right here on your screen. It's not very hard to understand. So all your airports are up here, and you know, all the way down through here. What I really like about xOrganizer is it can scan the app data of each airport that you have installed and figure out what country it's in, what province it's in, all that other good stuff. And it will automatically throw those airports into the appropriate country that they belong to. Like, here's my freeware Helsinki. When it's scanned, it figured out, hey, this is Helsinki. This is in Finland. Boom, it put it in Finland. So it's very intuitive on that. You know, North America here. You know, New Jersey, here's all my Jersey, Druzewicki Designs, there's Newark and all the other airports in there. So it does a pretty good job of it. It's not 100% accurate. This is one of the complaints I heard a few people like, oh, I don't want to use xOrganizer because it screws up my scenery load order. Well, it's not screwing up your scenery load order. It's not xOrganizer's fault. It's the fault of the developer because they just didn't put the right information in their data file, and so it's just kind of trying to guess where it belongs. The other thing to watch out for, now this is xOrganizer's fault. I've seen it do this before. It doesn't do it every time, and I don't know what causes it, but when a new update comes out and you put it in, it has to rescan all the folders. It's just kind of a housekeeping procedure that it does. But I've seen it shift some of my stuff around before. So you kind of have to go back through and take a look. It's not a disaster area. It's not like it shifts everything, but an airport here, an airport there might, you know, it might have been in West Virginia, and now all of a sudden it's in the New Jersey folder. I don't know why it does this, but it does. Hopefully you won't encounter that yourself, but it takes less than 2 minutes to scan through it, make sure everything's, everywhere where it's supposed to be. So that's kind of how this works. So yes, what else do we want to talk about here? All right, so not only does it handle scenery, it also handles your plugins for you too, which is awesome, by the way, because you can see here in our hierarchy tree, like under general plugins here, you can see I have all this stuff like shared flight, and I have world traffic, and here's xPilot for my VATSIM flying, and here's POSCON for flying on POSCON. So rather than me having to go into the resources/plugins folder and rename everything, xOrganizer takes care of all that junk for you. So if I want to fly on VATSIM, I would just load up xOrganizer and come in here and turn off POSCON and turn on xPilot. And then the next time I launch X-Plane, it's going to automatically swap out all of my plugins for the ones that I've turned on versus the ones that I've turned off. So if I wanted to go play with World Traffic 3, today instead of Traffic Global, I would turn on World Traffic 3 and I turn off Traffic Global, and so on and so forth. So in that regards, it makes it very tidy. You can also turn off Lua scripts here. Here's some of our scripts that we got currently. These are the main scripts for Lua. If you didn't know, Gizmo, one of my favorite plugins, that's sarcasm. It's in here under script plugins, but not only that, your Lua scripts also get organized, which is awesome, the fact that it can do this. So if there's like some Lua scripts that are like, going stupid on you, because let's say you just updated X-Plane and now, the X visibility's like crazy on you right now, you can just come in here and turn it off. You don't have to deal with it anymore. So one of the things I do, what's a good example? Let's see, ultra weather. So ultra weather doesn't like anything like touching the way the clouds look. It doesn't like any of that stuff. So in this case, like Fly AGI tweak utility, I would turn that off, and I would turn on down here under weather. I would turn on ultra weather. Obviously you can see I don't have it installed anymore because it's broke AF. So it's uninstalled at the moment. But right now, Active Sky here. It also understands SkyMax. It also understands Ultra Weather, and XEnviro are all detected by xOrganizer, which is pretty darn cool. So you can actually install all your weather engines, right? So here's an example of why xOrganizer is awesome. I own all these, right? So I could literally install all of these and then choose which one I want for the flight that I'm about to do, which is pretty cool, right? So you don't have to continuously install and uninstall products. The only reason why I uninstalled Ultra Weather is because it's bugged out of its mind right now. So there's no chance of me ever using it on a flight. So that's why that's out of there. So anyway, yeah, this thing handles all your plugins here. Any connection plugins like data and like XUIPC is in there. So it does a very, very good job of organizing all of your plugins. I have yet to see it miscategorize a plugin. So it's pretty solid on that. You can also come in here and do preferences. I don't really use this. What would you use this for? Well, let's say that normally you can have everything on high settings, right? In your graphic settings, you have everything set to high. World objects are on high. You got your texture resolution set to high, blah, 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 so on and so forth. So that's your main profile. Well, xOrganizer is kind of cool because it allows you to create different profiles that you can load prior to the simulator launching. So when you select a, say I had one here that says, low end specs, I could call one, low end specs, and I could put a checkbox next to that and then click the start button, and it's going to load that preference file instead of the default one. And that, the reason why you would do something like that is, I'm going to be flying from, New York City to Los Angeles, right? Those are two extremely heavy frame rate hogging environments, right? Seattle's a great example of that also. Seattle is a huge hit to the frame rate depending on what you got turned on. So you could make a preference file that actually puts all your settings on medium, and you could turn on that preference file when you're going to do a flight that is going to be done into heavy scenery. That way your frame rate doesn't explode in your face. The reason why I don't really bother with that is because I use the Fly AGI plugin, which allows me to adjust my frame rate on the fly, which is pretty cool. So I can always maintain 30 FPS no matter what scenery I'm going into because Fly AGI takes care of that for me. So this is kind of a feature that most people aren't going to use. Most people can run all the scenery that their hearts desire. So, but he still gave you the option to do that, which is pretty darn cool. It also does aircraft. So why would you screw with aircraft, right? Why would you screw with aircraft? Well, remember, if you're got 50 airplanes in your menu, that's a lot of aircraft to sift through, right? To find, the aircraft that you want to fly. So in theory, you could actually come in here and turn off every plane but the one that you want to fly, and then only that plane would show up in the list, and it would be really easy to select. Because you have to remember something about xOrganizer, or not xOrganizer, sorry, X-Plane. X-Plane loads everything, all right? Say it with me. X-Plane loads everything, even if you're not using it. Ortho imagery, airports, plugins, aircraft. If you're not using it, X-Plane's still going to load it. The whole reason why xOrganizer is so powerful, and I highly recommend it if you have a lot of scenery or if you're going to make a lot of ortho scenery and stuff, is because xOrganizer allows you to quickly turn off scenery, turn off planes, and turn off plugins that have no bearing on the flight that you're about to do. The positives of doing that is that the simulator loads much, much faster because you're only loading the stuff that you need to use for the flight. And you also reduce the risk of crashing to desktop because you have a bunch of crap that's not loaded into the system's memory anymore. Contrary to popular belief, X-Plane 11 actually does have a limitation to the amount of crap you can shove into it before it loses its mind. One of my favorite things that X-Plane can do, if you have too many airports loaded, for example, is well, here's the TOLUS A319. You can quickly spot that there might be something wrong with this particular aircraft. I ran into this particular bug myself. This is kind of how I learned that X-Plane had limitations when it comes to the amount of airports that you can have loaded into memory. That is the result of the Sassel engine breaking. The Sassel engine is breaking because too many plugins were loaded at the time. I used to leave all of my airports on, and I have over 300 airports. So I used to leave them all running, right? Well, a lot of those airports have the ground traffic plugin, and the ground traffic plugin creates an instance of that plugin for every airport that's currently active using it. So I had 60, 70, 80 instances of ground traffic plugin running. There was no room left for Sassel to actually initialize itself correctly, and so this is the end results from the TOLUS when the Sassel engine breaks on you. So this is why I am a huge advocate. Turn off every single airport that is not relevant to the flight you are about to do. The only airports you need turned on is your starting airport and your arrival airport. That's it. Turn everything else off. You're going to thank yourself later. Like I said, the risk of crashing to desktop gets greatly reduced. The more crap that you turn off, the better it's going to be for your system overall. That's just the way X-Plane works. So that's my recommendation. Take it or leave it. You should take it though. It's really going to help your life. So let's see. We'll get a little bit more into scenery order here too. Since we're here, we'll talk about load order and stuff because Roman here in chat just asked, hey, how do you have your Seattle organized? Because I have floating buildings at my Seattle. So we'll use Seattle as a really good example here once we get through some of this other stuff. So one of the other really cool stuff, these 4 tabs here are the ones that you're going to play with the most. This way is all about reporting information regarding your simulator, and this is really cool because I can click on scenery airports, and you guys may have remember we have the new airports command, right? Which you guys can see all 307 airports that I have. I did not type all that in by hand because I would have been driven insane. What I did is I turned on all of my airports in Europe, North America, South America, Asia, Oceanic, Africa. I turned everything on. Then I went over here into scenery airports, and I told it to export the airport data, and it exported that into a CSV file that I could then pull into Excel, and then voila, you guys saw the end results of my, if you want to see it, you can do the exclamation airports command right now, and a link to that will appear, and you can see what the end results are of that. So it's really cool, though, because it does show you where all your airports are in the world and all that other good stuff. That's kind of what this is here for. It just helps you organize your airports, and of course you can search by ICO and airport name and all this stuff. So if you're not really sure, you know, hey, did I buy Nuremberg from Aerosoft? I can't remember. You can go up here and type in ADD-ONS, and it will show you if you actually have ADD-ONS installed on your copy of X-Plane. Like I said, when you get as many airports as I have, you know, over 300, you tend to forget which ones you have, especially payware. xOrganizer has saved me money. It's already paid for itself because it saved me money, because I'll sometimes forget that I've bought an airport and I'll go out to buy it, but I actually use xOrganizer now to search to see if I already have that airport installed before I go and make a purchase. And it has saved me from accidentally buying an airport multiple times, which I have done in the past. And every time my head hits the keyboard and I start weeping bitterly because I just threw $25 out the door that I didn't want to. So xOrganizer will save you money if you have a lot of scenery, because it'll allow you to organize and stuff. Here's something that if you're an Ortho for XP user, you're going to love this tab. This is going to be your new best friend. So here's Planet Earth, and here's all the Ortho imagery that I have loaded in the world. What this allows you to do is you can click on, like, Europe here. I want to turn on all of Europe. And it's going to go in there and it's going to scan. It says I have 655 scenery packages available right now under Europe. And there is all the Ortho tiles that I have burned for Europe. And what's really cool about this is, as you zoom in here closer, if you put your mouse over a tile, if you look in the lower right-hand corner, it's showing you where that scenery is actually coming from. So right here, this one square right here is coming from zortho4xp _ +50 +15. So that I know where that's coming from. And the reason why this is important, if you see a square like this one here that's lit brighter yellow than the rest, that means there's duplicate scenery in this square. So you can put your mouse over it and you can look down, and now I can see that the top level here is going to be Orbix, right? Orbix comes with its own ortho for that entire tile to cover all the mountains in HD texturing. So you can see the layer order, though. The Orbix is always going to take priority over the Ortho for XP tile that I created. Now, the reason why I leave both of those in there is because I don't necessarily want Orbix's tile running if I'm not actually going to be using Innsbruck, right? I don't need loading that giant 8 gigabyte tile. There's no reason for it when the lesser, 500 megabyte tile underneath is going to more than get the job done when I'm doing a flyover and not actually coming in onto the scenery. You can also, one of the cool things here, you can also tell when you missed a tile. So you can see here I have 2 tiles missing. Now these tiles aren't really missing. These 2 tiles are actually damaged. They don't function in Ortho for XP. That's because the OSM data for these 2 tiles is currently broken. So anytime I try to make a tile in Ortho for XP, it just errors out while I was trying to make that tile. So that's why those are blank like that. So right here you can see all of the Canary Islands here. I have Spain Ultra HD is generating all of that scenery for me there. And you can actually just come in here and you can go, all right, show me everything that's in North America. So now it's going to go out and it's telling me I have 1,608 scenery packages for North America. It's going to zoom in here in just a second. It takes a little bit to read all that scenery, especially because it's on an external hard drive. So there it is. So there's the whole United States. That's what my North America Ortho covers. It covers all of that right now. And as I come down here, I can see that I have duplicate tiles everywhere. Like here, Vegas. Vegas is got duplicate tiles because V-States Arizona overlaps into this tile that holds Vegas. And so I have my own Ortho for XP imagery down there also doing that because, you know, technically that should be a California tile, but because of the way Vertical did his V-states actually encroaches in from Arizona. So, or sorry, his Arizona encroaches into the Las Vegas tile. So that's kind of why that's lit up here. And up here, you can see right here, I called Vertical on this several times before. And I'm like, why is this lit? Well, you can see right here in the lower right-hand corner, both V-States Illinois and V-States Iowa both have this tile. So it's just overlapping. And it's just going to tell you that the Illinois state tile is going to take priority over the Iowa one. So it doesn't cause any damage or harm. It's just going to tell you which one's going to take priority. But this does help you spot tiles that maybe you don't need a duplicate of. Maybe you need to get rid of it. So that's something that this is very useful for. And the last thing that this entire thing is useful for is you can kind of tell at a glance what you haven't put any Ortho for XP tiles to yet. So if you're trying to look to see what coverage you're missing, this will allow you to do that rapidly. So I'm getting ready to redo all of South America, so I'm going to go ahead and use the Sentinel-2 data here in a moment. So that's all I've got. I've just got Brazil right now and the coastline all the way up here through Panama and yada, yada, yada. So that's what's really awesome about this. So I can tell what's going on everywhere. We got Asia running in here. We've got Oceanic. So I'll just show you guys real quick what all Ortho, I'll show you how much Ortho I actually have on my 10 terabyte hard drive here. Give it just a second. It's going to take a moment. Asia's a big, big place. So I've just now kind of started working on Asia type stuff. So there's my Asia. You can see right there, we've started going into the Middle East. Of course, we covered all of Malaysia, Vietnam, and Philippines. Remember last week we did the A350 and the 747 flight. We got all of our oceanic scenery coming up here. So as we continue to come in here and, you know, keep adding, you start to see just how much scenery I have loaded. This is why you want xOrganizer in your life, particularly the paid version. The free version will get you by, but the paid version is updated constantly. It's 64-bit. It runs a hell of a lot faster because it's on a different programming engine. I think he used C++. I'm not sure. He used a different programming language, and it's much more efficient, much faster. And just gets the job better. Plus, it looks better. The interface is in color, and it's pretty, and it organizes better, and it's much faster at scanning your scenery and all that other good stuff. So, so I have a total of 3,399 scenery packages with Ortho alone. That's just my Ortho scenery. So we got quite a bit. We got quite a bit of Ortho, and I'm not done yet. I'm a madman. Now that I've got Sentinel-2 running, I actually did a kind of slightly off topic today. I did a flight in the Saab 340 Bravo today from Coronado, and we took off from Nuremberg, which I just picked up today. Nuremberg is freaking awesome, by the way. Aerosoft did a good job on it. It runs really good. And I flew all the way down to Corfu, and that was a great test because it allowed me to fly along the Baltics right here. And the Baltics with Google and Bing are just absolutely atrocious. They're terrible, terrible, terrible looking Ortho tiles. It's patchwork. It's taken different times of the year. It's discolored. It just looks horrible. Well, I rebuilt everything using the Sentinel-2 EOX2 Ortho data, and it looked fantastic all the way down to Corfu today. It was absolutely amazing looking. So I was quite happy with it. So I got some more to build here. You can see here, I want to connect all this here, but I know there's some tiles that are bad around Minsk, so I just haven't got in there yet. You really need to be paying attention if you're doing Ortho for XP, because if it hits a bad tile, all the other tiles won't burn anymore. It'll just stop. So I know that I have problem tiles around here somewhere, so I need time where I can sit and babysit it. And of course, I want to actually build the rest of Turkey all the way down to Dubai. I want to do all of this, and I should be done with all the Ortho scenery that I need in the world. I'm going to redo Africa. Not Africa, sorry. I'm going to redo Alaska also here, and the Alaskan coast with Sentinel-2 because it's color corrected and cloudless. Anyway, back on topic. Get back on topic. So that's kind of an overview. This is just information. It tells you your scenery versions, your plugin versions, and aircraft versions. So if you're not sure if you have the latest and greatest version, you can always have xOrganizer running while you're looking at the website, and click it, and you can compare it against what the website's telling you. You know, if you have 1.5 installed and the website says 1.51, well, you know you don't have the latest version. So that's kind of what those tabs are used for. All right. Up at the top here, these are automatic stuff. I actually have scenery, plugins, and preferences turned on. This just means it automatically is saving all this data as I am changing it in real time. I don't know why anybody on planet Earth would ever turn this into the off position. It just doesn't make any sense for me, so I just leave it running. So it's making real-time changes to my INI file as I'm working my way through it here. So let's see here. What else? Scenery load order. Okay, so Roman, this is kind of off topic from xOrganizer, but we'll use xOrganizer to help you. What happened is your scenery probably didn't load correctly. Like I said, remember, xOrganizer is not 100% fallible. Sometimes a scenery package can cause some problems with it. This is where you need to understand scenery load order, because you have the ability to drag and drop scenery that's not good. All right. So over here is a series of search buttons and extra tools and stuff that you can play with. There's a lot of stuff that can be done here. Here's all my profiles. I've only got really the one here, but you can have up to 10 additional profiles right here. So that's what we got here. But find scenery packages is what I use quite often when I'm getting ready to live stream. Right, when I plan my day, I come in here and I'll go Seattle, and I'll hit this. And when you do that, xOrganizer will automatically expand all your folders to show you what you just typed. So I typed in Seattle. That's only showing me the demo area. Well, that's because Mr. Juzuecki decided he wasn't going to call it by that. He was just going to call it Seattle. So I'm going to come in here and search for anything with the word Seattle in it. Press enter. And now we're getting somewhere. Now we're seeing all the stuff that has the word Seattle. And what's cool is it automatically highlights it. As long as you don't click anything, it'll keep it all highlighted for you and show you everything that has to do with the Seattle airport. So remember, airports go on top. So under Washington, you should have Seattle airports. I also have Seattle City. So both of those are right there. So I would check both of those. Your roads should be under roads and overlays, because that's what it is. This adds roads and extra buildings to the scenery. Click. So that's checked. I always leave all this stuff running here because it doesn't really affect anything when I'm flying over it. And this doesn't really take a whole lot of memory. So I don't bother to ever shut any of this stuff off. I just leave it running. So it just means that their overlays, their custom buildings are going to take precedence over Ortho for XP's overlays. And I am perfectly fine with that, because these are usually custom buildings and custom hand-placed tree lines and forests and stuff like that, and roads and things like that. And so obviously I want the best OSM data I can get. Typically, you get much better OSM data from the actual payware airport than you do from Ortho for XP. So we got right there. Moving on down, we can see that we have Seattle XP terrain right here. This is probably, Roman, to answer your earlier question, this is probably the reason why your buildings are floating, because you don't have this in the right place. This is the mesh file that Seattle uses. So it needs to be turned on. You can't turn it off. This is also, in case you guys are wondering, this is anytime an airport has its own custom mesh and you turn it on, this kills off your Ortho for XP. And the reason why it kills off your Ortho for XP is because it is an Ortho tile. Technically, it's a terrain mesh tile. And quite often they may have their own Ortho overlay on it. Usually they don't, so you end up with default terrain textures. But because this is mesh and it has higher priority than your mesh folder down here, this overwrites Ortho for XP and default mesh, or if you have like HD mesh version 4.0, this overrides all that, and so you end up with the airport's custom mesh, but you lose all your Ortho imagery. So that's kind of why that happens to you right there. Now this is my own folder. You have the ability to make your own folder by default. This is one of the things that Ortho for XP, xOrganizer does wrong. By default, this folder did not exist. I created this myself, which is cool, right? You can make your own You can make your own custom little folders, and you can drag and drop your stuff in here. And the reason why I did this is because I just told you guys that xOrganizer considers all this to be mesh. So what it wants to do when you install a new airport and you run xOrganizer to load it into, the load order here, it puts it down here in the mesh folder. Well, that's no good if the airport has a custom mesh, because now this mesh is underneath Ortho for XP. So now Ortho for XP has the priority, and so it buries and turns off the custom airport mesh. So you'll get to the airport and you won't have any curved runways. Buildings might be buried in the terrain or floating above it. So this is why I made my own custom folder, and I always move custom airport mesh into it, so I know it always is going to take priority over Ortho for XP. So this is kind of an example of where you need to kind of know load order so that you can move around folders and stuff whenever you need to. And it's really easy to do. I mean, it works. This works almost exactly like File Explorer on Windows 10 does. You just click a file, hold down the left mouse button, and drag it, and it'll auto scroll for you. If you put the mouse cursor towards the top while you're left clicking and holding, it'll start scrolling up, and then you just let go of it inside the folder, and it'll drop it in there. If you didn't expand the folder, if it was still closed, if you keep the left mouse button held down and you hover over it, it'll automatically expand it open, and then you can move the mouse cursor down and drop it inside the bucket there, inside that category bucket, which is pretty awesome. Let's see, what else do we need to talk about with this stuff? Oh, the new version. This is new. This is new as of 2.3, 2.30. This is awesome. This is a freaking amazing, awesome feature that the developer added for xOrganizer. I love this. So if you're like me, I have 307 active airports in my repertoire of airports. Probably, I'd say about 60, 70 of those are probably freeware airports, right? And you guys know what comes with a freeware airport, right? Usually you have to install what? Libraries, right? Everything that everybody hates to install, right? Especially on these airports that look really good, but then you're like, holy crap, why is there 32 libraries required to run this airport? And you sit there for 20 minutes debating whether or not you're going to download all these libraries because the airport looks so damn good. You want to install it, but you don't want to install all the libraries. Well, if you cave in and you finally grab it and you have all these libraries, before you start your simulator, let's see here. What's a good freeware library? Burbank, California. So Burbank, California. I have a freeware Burbank Bob Hope, California airport here. So once it's in place, one of the things you can do, and it automatically does the first time you load a freeware airport that has library dependencies into xOrganizer, it'll automatically spit out a report for you showing you if any libraries are missing. But what's cool here is if you turned off a library or something for whatever reason, or you forgot to install a library, you can always come down here now and you can actually click on check scenery packages for missing libraries, and it will give you the report here. And if any libraries are missing, it'll tell you the exact name of the library that's missing. So NAPS, RT_ library, 3D people, any of those, famous libraries that have been around for, years and years and years. It'll actually give you a full list of everything that's missing. And then you can go out and download it if you really want to hold on to that airport and be done with it. So that's kind of a cool new feature that was added in there. And yeah, I know what the latest version is. I didn't bother to get it. The bug fixes in there. It's a minor update, so I didn't feel like dealing with it. So I only really update if it's a major update, like it adds major features. If it's just a little minor update, I don't really bother with it. So that's what we do there. That's about it. There's no reason not to have this plugin, this app. If you're an X-Plane lover like I am, and you plan to have a lot of Ortho for XP, or if you have a lot of airports, if you are tired of having to go into the INI file and type in _disable space, blah, 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 to turn off the scenery, this is what you're going to want here. So I have a total of 4,073 scenery packs in my custom scenery folder between airports, plugins like, Trees of North America and, other stuff like that. That's how much scenery I have in my scenery folder. If I was to turn all that on, X-Plane's head would explode. Austin himself would probably kill over dead in his chair from a heart attack. So, because I want Austin to develop X-Plane 12, I turn off scenery when I don't need it. And X-Plane thanks me for it in the end. So it makes life a much, much simpler place. Let's see. Oh, one of the cool things, we'll talk about this here and then we'll wrap it up and we'll move on with our life to what we have planned after this tutorial is done. Right here, if you have a problem with an ortho tile, a piece of scenery, or something like that, xOrganizer will tell you that there is a problem. 32 items need your attention right now. What this means is it has moved something down here into this needs attention folder. Notice that it's at the very bottom of the load order. That's because typically you're going to want to shut this off. Nothing down here should be active ever, because this right here is why X-Plane will crash the desktop. It might be one of the reasons why your airport scenery doesn't load when you arrive after a 5-hour trip and discover there's nothing there but a runway and a couple of taxiways. That's probably because something got thrown in here. So in this example here, Aerosoft EDDK column 04 optional. So xOrganizer, when it scanned all my scenery, it detected that column here, this optional folder. It considered that as a piece of separate scenery that was, not part of EDDK, right? So, and this is because it had its own app data file, and it probably had its own EarthWed file or its own DSF files in there. So this is probably some winter optional thing. Well, obviously we don't want it loading, so it's turned off right now. I don't want to delete it though, right? So we got to keep it there. Same thing here, Pearson winter textures. Obviously I'm not using that right now. It doesn't know what to do with this. In this case, I know for a fact it doesn't know what to do with this because it's like I can't tell what this is, because all this folder is a bunch of textures. What you're supposed to do if you're using the Toronto Pearson that I'm using, the freeware, the one from ISDG, you're supposed to copy paste the textures in this folder and overwrite them in your main airport folder. So that's why this is confused. And of course, Druzewicki Designs, for some reason, thinks that we need an airport document. They've always done this with their airports. And so obviously all these document folders are completely and utterly useless, but I don't want to delete them. You could technically you can move all these somewhere else so that they don't show up anymore, but xOrganizer allows me to just turn them off so that the scenery INI file doesn't try to ever load them again. If you didn't have xOrganizer and you ran X-Plane after installing a Druzewicki Design airport, it would add this entry to the bottom of your scenery INI file. It would add it in there. So you don't want any of that crap. FSDG, they created their own custom folder. This is where they keep their scenery configuration.exe files so you can configure their airports. So obviously that's going to be something that confuses xOrganizer. It doesn't know what to do with it. I have a Paris Orly airport here that for some reason doesn't work. I haven't investigated this yet. This was some freeware scenery that I downloaded, but for some reason xOrganizer cannot identify where this airport belongs. Obviously it belongs in France, but I'm not going to move it into France until I figure out why it can't figure out where this belongs anyway. LXGB mesh contents. This is just something from Skyline Simulations. This is not really required. I don't think. It might be. Let me check something real quick here. LXGB. So there should be a custom. Yeah, see, they've already got a custom mesh here. So this is just some other weird folder. I think this is if, oh, I know what this is. This is a folder that has patches and stuff. So if you want to use your own Ortho for XP tile, they actually gave you patches and stuff for that. So obviously, xOrganizer doesn't know what to do with that. Now, here's one of the last cool things that this needs attention scan is going to do for you. These are all Ortho for XP tiles. How many times here, show of hands, for those of y'all that are in chat that use Ortho for XP, a show of hands, how many times have you been flying on a 5-hour flight and the simulator crashes the desktop halfway and you go and check the log file and it says that it couldn't load a terrain file from an Ortho for XP tile, and so it brought the entire simulator down to the desktop, and then you start crying bitterly into your beer. This will save you from that disaster right here. These are Ortho for XP tiles that I tried to create that for one reason or another failed to generate properly, and I didn't take notice of it. I didn't know it. So when I copied and pasted all of my tiles, the shortcuts into the custom scenery folder, it it lost its mind. It's like, I don't know what the hell this stuff is. What is this stuff? So now I can have xOrganizer opened on another window while I have Ortho for XP running, and I can go and find each one of these individual tiles and find out what's wrong with it, and if necessary, delete it and then rebuild it in Ortho for XP so that it will disappear from the needs attention and actually get put up in the proper folder where it belongs. If you actually fix these, the next time you run xOrganizer, it'll actually move these automatically to the country that they actually belong to, which is pretty cool. So I have a bunch of tiles here that are broken, and I know what happened. This is an example. Remember I showed you earlier under scenery covers that I had a couple of tiles that didn't burn correctly? That's because when it hit that tile, it made xOrganizer shut down any further production on that tile, but it also skipped all these other tiles that I had in the queue to burn. Well, even though it skipped them, it still made folder entries for it. So these are basically blank folders that don't have any data in them, and that's why Ortho for XP has no idea what to do with it. But it can also, if there's a file that's damaged in here, or if the tile's like kind of messed up and doesn't kind of conform properly to what's expected of an Ortho tile, it'll show up in here also. It's not 100% foolproof, right? If the terrain files are all in place, but there's like a missing JPEG file or missing DDS file, unfortunately, xOrganizer will not save you from that. There's actually another program, another app that this developer created that allows you to scan your Ortho imagery for damaged DDS files and JPEG files. So this will not do that for you. You'll have to go get the other program, and I can't remember off the top of my head what that program is called. I think it's X something. It's X something. I can't remember what it is. You can go look for it on the org store though, but it's in there under this developer's name. So there's a lot more features that are in here. I don't want this to. We're almost at an hour already here on this tutorial. I don't want to make this into a 7-hour tutorial. So there is a manual. Read it. There's a lot of little extra stuffs in here, like all these little tiny click buttons and everything in here. All these little actions here that you can do. If you have bad links and stuff, you can take a look in here. Missing library. If you had a bunch of scenery that got loaded in and had a bunch of library problems, you can click here and it will show you if any of your scenery in here is bad. You can go and correct it. You can also look at your log file in here too, I believe. If I remember right, I think you can look at your log file. Yeah, you can show your last log file. So if you had to crash the desktop, you can either go open the log file with Notepad, or you can come into xOrganizer and open it right here, which is pretty cool. That's about it. Oh, here's kind of a cool feature too. They added this. He kind of added this in a recent version here, ground traffic plugin off and on. You can automatically disable ground traffic plugins across every single airport. It will go out into your scenery and find an instance of this plugin and shut it off. The reason why he added this to help us through the beta phase when ground traffic plugin was borked and didn't work in Vulkan. And it was crashing people to desktop. So he kind of added this in here so we could quickly go in and just shut off all the ground traffic plugins so that the beta version of 11.50 would stop crashing to desktop on us. Of course, that's been rectified now. Ground traffic plugin, thanks to the community's awesome efforts, now works flawlessly in Vulkan. So we don't really need to deal with that anymore. I mean, you can still use it, obviously, if you want to shut it off, but I just turn off the airport, and that does the same thing. It basically shuts off that copy of the ground traffic plugin, so you don't have to worry about it. Let's see here. I think that's it. So, yeah, that's going to do it for this particular tutorial. Hopefully you guys found this enlightening. Hopefully you got excited now for this plugin or this app that's going to save your life and make you a much happier person. Again, there is a freeware version of it that you can download from the explain.org, but I don't think he develops it actively anymore, because why would you? When you're trying to make a profit off of your paid version, why would you continue to upgrade, the freeware one? So if you want to stick with the freeware one, be my guest. You're just shooting yourself in the foot, though. Go out, spend the $12.50, and get yourself a copy of xOrganizer. This really should be in everybody's library of programs if you're going to be using Explain 11 for an extended amount of time here. So that's going to be the end of this particular stream. everybody in chat, stick around. We'll be right back here. I want to separate this tutorial from our next stream here that we're going to be doing in just a few minutes. I'm going to get to work painting on a new livery. I feel painterly. I've been skipping this for the last 2 weeks, so I'm going to get it done tonight. So that's what we're going to do here. So hold your questions. I will be back here shortly, and I'll answer some of those questions in the next stream here, which we'll have in just a few minutes. So stick around, everybody, and thanks for watching. Bye-bye.